Welcome into SportsSource.tv. This is our overtime segment. We do it each week after the show. We're hanging around here with three VFLs from the panel today. We have former offensive lineman Kyler Kerbyson, former offensive lineman David Ligon, former defensive lineman Daniel Hood down there. This segment brought to you by Smokin' Joe's and their newest venture, Blue Smoke Cigar, which is, if you enjoy a cigar, it's a lounge now. It's a club kind of a deal. You get a membership out there. Well, one, you don't have to be a member. They've got a nice room, TVs where you can sit and smoke. But they also have the walk-in humidor. If you're a member, they've got back rooms with the card tables, with the golf games where literally you take actual club, hit this thing into the screen. It tells you where the ball would go. Leather seating, wall of televisions. It's the slickest thing in town for the person who enjoys a cigar. Blue Smoke Cigar out in West Knoxville off South Peters Road, right across from Rafferty's. And then Smokin' Joe's, of course, located down in Alcoa. So we appreciate them bringing you this segment every week. And I tell you what, let's do this so people have to hang around. I want to talk about what happens when one side of a team sucks. when right now the defense is playing terrible. Okay, we talked about it in today's show. It's playing terrible. Daniel, you've been on both sides of this. Defense that was bad, and you've been on a defense that was good, and the offense was bad. I want to ask you in a second about friction that could develop on a team. What's the interpersonal relationships? What are they like when that's going on? But first, we never do this. People ask me all the time, hey, what's he do for a living? So we're not wasting television time with it. We're doing it here online. In a quick couple of sentences, what are you doing now, Kyler? How can people get in touch with you? What do you do?
I'm working at H3 Next Level. It's where I worked out in high school and led me to where I am now. I am training kids, middle school and high school, in strength, agility, technique, mostly offensive linemen, but whoever wants to come out and get better at football or anything that they feel like they need to improve can give me a shout, DM me on Twitter, and give you some more information.
All right, DM him on Twitter. That's the best way to get in touch with Kyler Kerbyson. David Ligon?
I work in banking, commercial banking. I work with Pinnacle Bank here in Knoxville. We're second largest financial institution based in the state of Tennessee. We're very proud of that, based out of Nashville, and just work with businesses and owners and everything related to banking, deposits, lending, obviously, and cash management things. So
good, because I need a loan. Right over there, we can talk. We got Daniel Hood. What are you doing now? Hood's handyman.
Hood's Home Services. We actually specialize in smaller jobs for the home because there's a lot of companies. Benedict Construction is actually a favorite one to work with for the larger jobs, but for that smaller range that you can't get people to pick up the phone, that's what we specialize in. That's where we try to find our niche. And also, I like to give an endorsement there for Next Level, because that's actually where I trained at coming out of high school. Some other guys, Devin Young, trained there as well.
Todd Kelly.
Devin, great owner there, great trainer, someone that you can trust your kids with, because he's going to care for them.
There you go. All right. Now, we've got the niceties out of the way. People understand where their VFLs are. Let's say you're on a team and one side of the team sucks and the other one's playing pretty well. What are the interpersonal relationships like? And I'll start with Daniel down there, because, again, you've been on both sides of it. You were on that Sinceri defense.
Yep.
That was so awful. Did you walk around? Did you go through the locker room and feel like the offensive guys were staring at you? And then what year was it? 2010. The next year when you had.
I think it was 2011 actually when we were.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the year before Sinceri. So we had this great defense the year before. We're talking to the offense sometimes, mainly just in jest. Hey, do you think y'all can punt it on first down this time? Instead of going backward, you just punt it. There's a chance we can go out there, play defense, get some points just based off field position. And then you go to 2012, and the first of the season, you're spending a ton of time in the film room, hanging your head. You're just like, that's my teammates I worked out with all summer, and we're over here getting torched. And then it was about the Alabama game that year when we ran we called it Chaos, which is a pass rush game, and just to help you out.
I think that's fitting for most of what Sinceri ran.
And that's exactly what it was.
Chaos.
But you had your two inside defensive tackles that were wrapping outside, but the left side guy had to wrap outside the right, and the right guy had to wrap outside the left. We ran that game against Alabama on a 3rd and 1. And so guess what Alabama did? Ran a power play right down the middle, and I think the running back is still running. It was, and it was at that point that we just kind of realized, you know what? Sometimes it's not about us. We're just going to go play hard, and hopefully it'll work out.
Well, at what point, though, flip it? I mean, what were the offensive guys thinking about you? Did it bother you? Right. Offensive guys, what do you think about when the defense?
He was there.
Yeah, I was there. So
So what are you thinking?
I didn't play. That was my redshirt sophomore or redshirt freshman year. But as an offense, we were just like, come on, please, just give us a chance. Just stop them one time and we'll score. That was a team with Tyler Bray and Justin Hunter and Zach Rogers and Michael Rivera and
Derek Rogers was still on the team at that point.
Derek Rogers. I mean, so many offensive weapons where it was 2 plays, 3 plays, and we're going to score. So that's all they were asking. Just please get a stop. You never said anything to them. You weren't going to say something to make them feel worse and make them play worse.
Right.
But in the back of your mind, talking to your buddies, you're like, God, man, if they can
And then
just
we're-
step up a little bit, we'll be
then
okay.
We were sitting there in the team meeting, like after the Georgia game, like Dooley's up there, like, you all played so great for this 6 minutes of time. What happened this 6 minutes? We're like, see, offense, we played great for 6 minutes. I don't know what happened over here. We gave you a chance to get the lead here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I went through the same thing that Daniel did 2 years ago when the whole offensive line got replaced, and it was my first year starting. The defense was the only thing keeping us in games.
Right.
They were the reason we went 6-6 and got to a bowl. And versus these really good teams, they were able to hold them okay. I mean, you weren't expecting them to hold them under 10 points every game, but they were able to keep us in the games, and we were throwing it away. And it was so demoralizing for us. And we felt so bad. And I would always say to the defensive guys, like, I'm sorry that this is happening. Like, I'm going to do better. Like, I want this to happen. Like, thank you so much for all your effort and all that you're doing. So,
David, you ever have any experience like this?
Well, I think no matter if you have one side of the ball that's struggling through the course of the year, it always happens. If you're pretty balanced, it's always going to happen in a game. There are going to be games where the offense doesn't do well, or there's going to be a game where the defense doesn't do well. I was really thankful and glad to be a part of some really good football teams. We won a lot of games. We never really had major endemic issues other than a quarterback controversy one year that happened to have a tremendous defense. But even within that year, we go up to Notre Dame and play against Jeff Samardzija and Brady Quinn and Tom Zbikowski, and the offense is really doing well, and the defense has given up, and special teams really, and we can throw that into the mix, ends up giving up 40-something points, and it's just hard to overcome. But I think you just got to realize, and I think that's where the leadership on the team comes in, is you can't ever let that conflict occur, because once it occurs, you might as well just stop playing for the year. If you've got one side of the ball that's not is upset at the other side, you've got to pick each other up. I mean, I can remember during that year of the defense, you hear those guys talk about, hey, we've got to get the ball back to the offense. We've got to give them more possessions because something's going to happen eventually. And the same is for us. It's like, it's okay. We play Air Force my senior year. Air Force. We should
Coming off the big Cal win.
Yeah, absolutely. We scored and if we didn't, we would have lost the game. We scored every single possession except one. And we just knew, hey, it is what it is. This is happening. We've got to pick the defense up, and then the defense ultimately makes the stop and wins the game. So I think it's all about leadership.
There were stories coming out of the program in 2008, the Dave Clawson year when the Clawfence was there. There were stories that the defense had started to finally just get sick of it, and there was a little bit of frustration bubbling up, a little friction that you could actually see and hear. Anybody ever experienced that? Any of you guys ever experienced it where? Yeah, okay, it's starting to go from I feel sorry for him, or I'll try and apologize for us not playing well, to okay, now you guys better pick it the hell up. I mean, did you ever get to the point? Did you ever see anything like that or no?
There was always frustration, but as you were saying, to be a leader, to be a guy in the team that's high character and stuff, you don't say that to your other teammates.
Yeah, but you don't have 85 guys who are high character leaders.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
I see where you're going, and
Yeah.
you don't want that. Maybe you guys never experienced that.
I didn't experience someone going to the other side and being like, "You stink. You need to pick this up. You're the reason why we're losing games." I never experienced that. I always saw it as trying to motivate the guys to play better.
I never experienced, but I think it's because we were so bad the entire time we were there. It's just, in the 08 team, they had the 07 season to compare something against. That was a good
right.
year. And so you'd be frustrated in 08 coming after that. But in ours, it was, 5-5, 5, and then I think we had a 7 win in there somewhere. But, I mean, you're consistently bad, so why are you going to get mad at that guy? Because you're not great. So it's just work together, and let's see if we figure it out.
All right, let me flip something. You put something on social media this week and took some heat from it, and then it started off, and then people are starting to agree with you now that they've seen Gus Malzahn. We talked about perspective on last week's show. You could do that every week because yesterday was another example, after the South Carolina game. Not excusing that. It's bad loss. But the idea that, it's an inexcusable loss. You can't go down there with a championship on the line, play like that. We're above that. Yeah, 5 teams in the top 10 lost yesterday. 4 of them lost to unranked teams. Gus Malzahn and Auburn had a championship on the line. They could go into the Iron Bowl, beat Alabama, go to the West. Instead, they go to Georgia, lay an egg. And what's interesting, after the egg was laid, just to tie it back into Tennessee more, Gary Daniels at the end of the game said, loss for Auburn, and what's the reason? The injuries. He's just making excuses. But if you open your eyes, you see this everywhere, these kinds of losses. But especially after Gus Malzahn lost yesterday, I think more people are coming around to your post earlier this week that if Tennessee wins the East, Butch Jones should deserve some credit or win Coach of the Year in the SEC. I don't think that's as far-fetched as it sounds when you think about the fact, yes, you were picked to win the East. Who else in this league has lost anywhere near the amount of players Tennessee has to departures, to discipline, and then the injuries? Who else are you going to give it to that would have a better rate? If Tennessee finishes 9-3, I don't think anybody in the league outside of Alabama, I think maybe LSU can finish 10-2 maybe. Everybody else is going to have 3 losses. So it's either Nick Saban or Butch Jones. You made the case. You think he should be in there.
And I'll further it too, because not only is it the departures with Danny O'Brien, Preston Williams, Jalen Hurd, the injuries of, I think Jimmy has a stat of 22 players missed significant playing time, significant being 2 quarters or more. But you got, you start out the season, fans are happy behind you, then you go out there to App State. Yeah, that's on you all for not getting the job done. But at the same time, you lose fan support there. Virginia Tech comes around, okay, you gain a little bit of that. And then it's just, you get to where we came through after Georgia, whereas Alabama, Texas A&M, and all that, you lose your fan support. So now your coach is getting criticized every week, your defense is, and you got so much just almost anger and angst going to your program, you're still able to get that team to come together to overachieve. And I think the more we look at the Jalen Hurd situation, I think it's a mutual parting of ways when you look at how well or what the words are coming from the teams. And so if Coach Jones has came out and comes to make that decision that we mutually parted ways with one of our top 5 players on our team and still turn around and made a 9-3 season with fans on and off the bandwagon the entire season, with the significant amount of injuries, and the only other team that's came close to this was the 2013 Gators, who went 4-8. So I mean,
right.
It's just it's remarkable what he's able to do, and it's kind of like we say it all the time. You don't know what you got till it's gone, and I hope we're not in that scenario where we're not appreciating what we got right in front of us for what he's been able to accomplish. So let's reward it.
The fact that you did lose to South Carolina, the 2 that turned it, people were still pretty much behind you after A&M. But then you got blown out by Alabama, and that ticked everybody off. Then you lose to South Carolina, and again, it's unacceptable. But which, again, it may be unacceptable, but it happens all over the place.
Well, on the South Carolina thing, I would say is, if you look at that game, is Tennessee the better team? Even with all the injuries, is Tennessee still the better team than South Carolina? I think the answer is yes. And so if you lose that game, that's why I think people get really upset.
My question with the South Carolina game is, and I'd ask everybody to think about this, if you say South Carolina is the worst loss of Butch Jones' career, cool, I've called it that, it is. But if you look at it and say, okay, we had a culture problem, and we think it bases around one guy, and we make the decision to get that guy off the team, does that not further your case for Coach of the Year? I've got a problem. And imagine how hard that is to kick that guy off.
Here's the thing about overreacting that we all do. Media did it just as well as the fans. I'm not coming down on fans. Part of the media was doing it too. It was 2 weeks ago tonight that Tennessee was dumpster fire. Remember? Dumpster
Yeah.
fire. It's all, the wheels are coming off. This season's over. The program's in disarray.
Yep.
You had a star leave. Butch Jones has lost control of the locker room. Kaput. It's done. 2 weeks later, you've won 2 games. You're back in the race to Atlanta. If Florida loses to LSU, you're probably going to go to Atlanta. It's just, to me, it's a little bit of the calm down. Always. If you won a game, great. Doesn't mean you're going to win them from now on. If you lose a game, doesn't mean you're going to lose everything from now on. But let me ask you. He says he should be in the running Coach of the Year for what he's done. Kyler, do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, just because of where he's come from. You know, where Tennessee started off when he first got there to now.
Yeah, but they won't count that in the voting. It'll
I
be
know
Coach
they
of the
won't
Year.
count that in the
Lifetime
voting.
Achievement Award or
Yeah,
something like that.
you know, this is this season, and yes, they were picked as the favorite, but I mean, the stuff that he's come back from is unbelievable. Nick Saban, great coach, amazing coach, but everyone was expecting you to do this. This is not a surprise to anyone that you are 9-0, 10-0, undefeated, going to the SEC championship. No one is surprised at this at all. And I think Orgeron has a better case for Coach of the Year than Saban does, coming from a coordinator position to head coach, taking over that team. And if he finishes out only having 1 loss, I mean, that's pretty impressive in the SEC West also.
You get the final say, David. Are you buying it or no?
If there was a most improved award, I could buy that for Coach of the Year. No, and for the same reason that Kyler just talked about Nick Saban. Oh, we expect him to go win, 12 games in a national championship. Are you kidding me? That's what everybody wants to do. It's literally the video game dynasty that he's the only person that has been able to accomplish that and still continues to do it. So unless he's cheating, which it's Alabama, I wouldn't throw that out of the realm of possibility. He's the Coach of the Year because he did it again, and I can't do it. If I could do it, I wouldn't be here. I'd be making whatever he's making, $6 million a year. Nobody else can, because they would be doing the same thing, and that's why I think he still would win it. Now I don't know, Orgeron, that's a pretty good argument. Like a temporary coach, look what he's doing, and that's craziness. But still, I would fall to the guy that's doing the same thing over and over. That's insanity.
Okay, I will say this, that if Butch Jones had if the season had gone as planned, 10-2 Atlanta, I wouldn't put him up for Coach of the Year because it was predicted. When you factor in the most injuries I've ever seen, ever. That's not an exaggeration. That's not an excuse. That's a reality. Never seen it. I'm 45 years old. I've watched Tennessee football since I was about 5 years old. That's 40 years. I've never seen anything like this, and I've never talked to anyone who's seen anything like this. Maybe Gus Manning has seen something like this in the 50s. But I've never seen anything like this. So to get there, if you achieve your goal of winning the East, minus 20-something players who've missed time or gone for the year, and star players too.
5 of your 7 best
To
players.
me, that puts you in the mix. But I see that Saban is the guy. I'm just saying, I understand why Daniel's making the case. I think the case for Jones actually gets better due to the fact he's lost all these guys, and he still could get them to Atlanta.
And I would buy that if they had the dominating performances in the start of the year with all the players healthy.
Fair enough.
And they just weren't there. So it's like, what was going on? And yes, now they've lost a lot of people, and we've seen the production drop off.
I would counter that and say you did. When you look at
Just
the
win the
second
games.
half, the second half Virginia Tech was a dominating performance. Second half of Florida,
Yeah, but
I
with
think
5 turnovers. I mean,
That's
they
All right, we
gave
got to
you
go.
the game.
My crew's going to scream and throw things at us. We've each had our say. Very good. I appreciate it, fellas. Daniel, David, Kyler, thank you very much. I know Vol fans appreciate seeing VFLs out here all the time. Give these guys a call, help their businesses, and then maybe they'll give me some money and help my business. We'll see you on Thursday night, Fox 43. We'll talk to you on the radio on Friday for the Pigskin Panel on WNML, and we'll see you next Sunday on WATE. Did I say Fox 43 earlier? Yeah. Thursday, 7 o'clock, Fox 43. I got so many shows I can't keep them straight. Then we got Sunday right back on Channel 6 at 11 a.m. See you then. Thank you.